Hey there, trash junkies. Today we dive into history's dumpster and uncover the most spine-chilling, nightmare-inducing deaths in history. So smash that like, click subscribe, and let's get our hands dirty. Cranking up the horror right at number 10, we're rocketing into the nightmare that was Edward II's end. Hold on to your seats as we descend into a chilling chapter of history. Edward II, a king plagued by a rule filled with disaster and political turmoil, finally met a grisly fate that sent shockwaves through the kingdom. After being dethroned, Edward found himself a prisoner within the chilling stone walls of Berkeley Castle. And then, ladies and gentlemen, came a night of unspeakable terror that would mark one of history's most horrific deaths. Picture this. Edward's cell door creaks open, and in walks his executioner, a fiendish gleam in his eyes and a weapon of nightmares in his hand. A blazing hot iron rod, its end glowing like the fires of hell itself, ready to deliver a death so brutal it sends chills down our spines just thinking about it. Whispers of his private life were twisted into a morbid joke, and the rod was shoved mercilessly into Edward. His insides were cooked, his screams echoed through the cold stone halls of the castle, a symphony of pain and horror. His final moments were an unending ordeal of torment that defies imagination. And so, Edward II meets a royally horrific end, scoring him the 10th spot on our gruesome list. Roaring in at number 9 is St. Laurence of Rome. His gruesome demise came at the hands of Emperor Valerian, who decreed the death of all Christian leaders. Strapped onto an enormous gridiron over a layer of hot coals, Laurence's skin blistered and seared as the fiery embers burned his flesh. The sickening smell of his own burning body would have filled his nostrils, as he reportedly joked, "I'm done on this side. Turn me over." Steeling ourselves for number 8, we plunge into the icy darkness of Russian history. The mad monk, Grigori Rasputin. A man so enigmatic and resilient, his death story teeters on the edge of the supernatural. The Russian nobles, disturbed by his influence over the Tsarina, concocted a deadly plot to eliminate him. A feast was laid out for him, the food and wine generously laced with lethal cyanide. But Rasputin, defying all logic and reason, seemed unaffected by the poison coursing through his veins. In a state of frenzied desperation, his assassins shot him. But the resilient monk kept rising. More gunshots rang out, a savage beating ensued, yet Rasputin clung stubbornly to life. His seemingly lifeless body was finally thrown into the freezing Neva River, weighed down by the weight of treachery and fear. But the final twist in Rasputin's tale? His autopsy revealed water in his lungs. He had, in fact, died from drowning. A chilling end to a life cloaked in mystery and intrigue. Ready your stomachs for number 7, as we delve into the gruesome tale of Ishikawa Goemon, Japan's own Robin Hood. His defiant spirit and audacious exploits were abruptly cut short when he was captured following a failed assassination attempt. The penalty was as public as it was excruciating. A massive iron bathtub was filled with water and placed over a roaring fire. The crowd watched in anticipatory silence as the water started to bubble, turning from a serene stillness to a deadly boiling broth. With his son by his side, Goemon was slowly lowered into the scalding water. His skin began to blister and peel, each second an eternity of searing pain. Yet, he showed remarkable courage, holding his son aloft, shielding him from the boiling death below. His cries of pain echoed through the square, a poignant testament to a father's love and the tragic end of a hero. Buckle up because we're turning up the terror with number 6. Welcome to the horrifying tale of Giles Corey, an elderly farmer caught in the whirlwind of the Salem witch trials. Accused of dabbling in the dark arts, Corey was destined for a death more fearsome than the vilest specter. Picture this nightmare scenario. Lying flat on the unforgiving ground, a massive wooden board pressing down on your chest, each gasping breath a struggle against the crushing weight. And then the stones. Oh, the stones. They start small, each one adding to the insufferable pressure. Each new stone, a new stab of agony, each breath drawn, a Herculean effort. The weight increases, your bones protest, your lungs beg for mercy. But Corey, this titan of a man, only musters up the grit to demand more weight. For 2 harrowing days, his life was slowly squeezed out of him until he was finally silenced under the crushing pressure. Talk about going out under pressure. Ready or not, number 5 plunges us into a boiling, spine-chilling nightmare. It's the hair-raising story of Richard Roose, whose culinary experiments went horribly wrong. Roose's secret ingredient, a pinch of poison, landed the Bishop of Rochester and his guests on their sickbeds, and Roose himself on the chopping block. And oh, what a ghoulish sentence awaited him. Imagine a gargantuan cauldron, the water within roiling and frothing over a fiery furnace. Roose is lowered into this boiling horror, his screams piercing the air as the water savages his skin. The water cooks Roose alive, a human soup simmering in the cauldron, his body peeling away and dissolving in the water. His last screams echo across the yard, a grim reminder of the horrific fate that befell this ill-starred cook. Hold on to your hats as we take a grisly dive into number 4, The Blood-Soaked Tale of Liu Jin. Liu, a Chinese official notorious for his insatiable greed and power abuse, eventually fell from grace and landed squarely in the sights of vengeful authorities. His punishment was a ghastly show of death by 1,000 cuts, or Ling Chi. Picture Liu, bound and helpless as the executioner steps forward, his gleaming blade catching the first rays of the morning sun. The blade descends, carving into Liu's body. The agony is unimaginable. 1,000 fiery cuts, 1,000 screams of torment. The knife whittles away at his body, sliver by sliver, while the crowd watches in morbid fascination. It's not just an execution, it's a horrifying spectacle, an opera of pain that played out over hours, perhaps even days, leaving Liu a bloody, unrecognizable mass. A chilling testament to the terrifying efficacy of Ling Chi. Brace yourself for a trip into the heart of darkness as we unveil number 3. Get ready for a shocking journey into the life and death of György Dózsa. This one-time nobleman turned leader of a peasants' uprising was destined for an end as twisted as the coils of the scorching iron throne that awaited him. Following his rebellion's failure, Dózsa was sentenced to a horrific spectacle of a death. Imagine being force-seated on a white-hot iron throne, a glowing, infernal crown pressed onto your head, the smell of your own skin burning, assaulting your senses. Heat sears your flesh, and you can only writhe in unbearable agony as your skin blisters, pops, and sticks to the red-hot metal. The monstrous pain is magnified when a searing scepter is forced into your hand. As your life is cruelly burnt away, your screams serve as a twisted coronation anthem, a horrifying end for a once gallant leader. Hold on to your hats, because at number 2, we're plunging headfirst into a well of unspeakable horror. We're talking about the gory end of William Wallace, the Scottish titan whose call for freedom was savagely muffled by the English. After his capture, Wallace was destined for a blood-chilling public execution. Visualize the dread. You're dragged by a horse to the execution site, each jarring jerk a harsh echo of the doom that awaits. Then comes the hanging, a ghastly waltz with the Reaper, every desperate breath a battle, but the nightmare's just beginning. While you're still alive, the executioner dives his hand into your abdomen, yanking out your organs one by one, their wet thump as they hit the ground a grotesque chorus to your torment. And the horrifying spectacle doesn't stop there. You're quartered next, your limbs hacked off and sent as gruesome souvenirs to the far corners of the kingdom. A wickedly brutal finale to a hero whose spirit remained unbroken to the very end. Finally, at number 1, it's Francis Ravaillac, the regicide who put a gruesome spin on off with his head. Ravaillac assassinated King Henry IV of France, stabbing the monarch in his carriage. In retribution, Ravaillac was subjected to a notoriously brutal punishment. Drawn and quartered. 4 horses were harnessed to his limbs, ready to tear him apart. But it wasn't that simple. The horses struggled, unable to complete their gruesome task. Aggravated, the executioners resorted to barbaric measures. They sliced into Ravaillac's shoulders and thighs, hoping to ease the horse's job. It took multiple tries, increasing the torment for Ravaillac before he was finally torn to pieces. The mob, whipped into a frenzy, surged forward, snatching body parts and setting them on fire. Ravaillac's excruciating end stands as the epitome of gruesome historical deaths. And there you have it, folks. 10 of the most horrific historic deaths. Gives a whole new meaning to rest in peace, huh? Remember, if you enjoyed this chilling countdown, to like, share, and subscribe for more trashy tales. Stay curious, and we'll see you in the next one.